When we think about revolutions in manufacturing, we usually think about machines, right? Steam power, electricity, computers. But what if I told you one of the most important revolutions of all time wasn't about hardware, but about an idea? An idea from the last century that, believe it or not, is the bedrock of all the high-tech factories we talk about today. Let's dive in.
So let me ask you a simple question. When you hear the word quality, what pops into your head? For a lot of us, it's something expensive, something luxurious, high-end. But what if that entire way of thinking is just outdated?
And this right here, this is the massive shift in thinking that changed everything. The old view on the left ties quality directly to a high price tag, but the modern view on the right, it says they have almost nothing to do with each other. Think about it. A 10-cent disposable lighter that works every single time, that is high quality. A beautiful, solid gold $500 lighter that's fussy and fails half the time, that is low quality. It's not about being fancy, it's about being fit for its purpose.
All right, here's our game plan for today. We're going to really nail down this new definition of quality. Then we'll do a quick history tour and see how this idea grew up. We'll look at the shocking cost of getting things wrong, check out the simple tools they invented to fix it, see how it sparked a total revolution in management, and then, this is the cool part, we'll connect it all to the next generation of manufacturing. Okay, let's jump right into part 1, redefining quality. And it all comes down to a really simple but powerful phrase. The customer is king. This one idea is the foundation for everything else we're going to talk about. So here's the official, kind of formal definition, but forget the jargon and look at those key words. Satisfy needs. That's the whole ballgame. It's not about being the best in the abstract, or the fastest, or the most feature-packed. It's simply about whether the thing you made actually does what the customer needs it to do. That's it. This leads us to what the source material calls the first postulate of quality. It sounds complicated, but it's not. It just says that every business interaction is a simple triangle: a supplier, a product, and a client. And in that setup, there's only one benchmark for success. Did you meet the client's needs? That's what puts the customer in the driver's seat and makes them the ultimate judge. So let's get into section 2. You know, an idea this big doesn't just appear out of thin air. It grew up over decades, and we can actually break its history down into what we'll call the 3 ages of quality. It all started in its childhood, with these little sparks of genius, like making interchangeable parts for cannons so you could fix them on the battlefield. Then came adolescence, from the 20s to the 80s, where this thing just exploded. It was forged in the heat of mass production lines, and then refined by the incredibly high stakes of aerospace and nuclear power, places where failure just wasn't an option. And that brings us to today, the age of maturity, where quality isn't a special feature, it's the cost of entry. It's a universal language for business. And behind this whole movement, you have these absolute legends. These are the thinkers who literally wrote the book on modern quality. You've got guys like Deming and Juran, who famously helped kickstart Japan's post-war industrial miracle. You have Ishikawa, who was obsessed with measurement and gave us some amazing tools. And then Philip Crosby, who came up with these unforgettable radical slogans like "zero defects" and "do it right the first time." Now for part 3. So why did this whole movement become a revolution? Was it just a nice philosophy? No way. It came down to something much simpler: money. Companies finally woke up and realized the absolutely staggering cost of imperfection. Take a look at this number, 10 to 25%. Any guesses what that is? It's the percentage of a company's revenue that is typically wasted, just poof, gone, because of poor quality. That's the cost of scrapping bad parts, redoing work, and handling angry customers. It's a massive invisible leak in the bucket. The source material has this fantastic metaphor for this waste, the ghost factory. Just picture it. Inside your real factory, there's a second, invisible factory. It uses your people, your machines, and your time, but it doesn't make a single thing you can sell. Its only job is to fix all the mistakes the real factory made. That is the cost of non-quality.
And if you break that cost down, it's even more revealing. Check this out. A crazy 80% of the money is spent on failures, fixing mistakes you caught internally or dealing with the fallout from mistakes that reach the customer. Meanwhile, the stuff that would actually prevent the problems in the first place, like training and planning and testing, that gets just a tiny fraction of the resources. The entire goal of the quality movement was to flip this chart upside down.
So, how in the world do you fight a ghost factory? That brings us to section 4. You do it with a new toolbox, filled with some of the most simple yet powerful management tools ever invented.
It all starts with this one core principle from Kaoru Ishikawa. The important thing is to measure, measure, always measure. You can't fix what you can't see, and you can't see what you don't measure. This whole game isn't about opinions or gut feelings. It is all about the data. And one of the most brilliant tools is maybe the simplest. It's called the 5 whys. It's basically weaponizing the most annoying habit of a toddler. Instead of just fixing a problem on the surface, you just keep asking why. Why did the machine stop? The fuse blew. Okay, but why did the fuse blow? The motor was overloaded. And why was the motor overloaded? By the time you get to the 5th why, you're usually looking at the real root cause of the problem. For more complicated problems, Ishikawa gave us his famous diagram. We call it a fishbone diagram for obvious reasons. It's an amazing tool for brainstorming. You put the problem, the effect, at the head of the fish, and then you map out all the possible causes along the bones, grouping them into these standard categories, the 5 M's: manpower, method, machine, material, and milieu, which is just the environment. It's a way to make sure you've thought of everything. Okay, so you've brainstormed 50 possible causes. Where do you start? Well, that's where the Pareto principle comes in. You probably know it as the 80-20 rule. What it says is that for almost any situation, a huge chunk of your problems, like 80%, come from a very small number of causes, the vital few. This chart shows it perfectly. Your job isn't to fix everything at once. It's to find and attack that vital few, because that's where you'll get the biggest impact. All right, let's head into section 5. Because when you put these tools and this new customer-first mindset together, something incredible happens. You don't just improve a process here or there. You completely rewire the entire company.
I mean, just look at the contrast. The old way, called Taylorism, was a rigid pyramid, a top-down command and control system where workers were basically treated like cogs in a machine. Total quality blows that up. It reimagines the company as a network. And in this network, every single person, every single team is both a supplier to the next person in the chain and a client of the person before them.
And that leads to this next idea, the second postulate of quality. And honestly, this is profound. It says that if every single person focuses on perfectly serving their internal customer, the next person down the line, then satisfying the final paying customer becomes the inevitable result. It's not something you have to force. It just happens. All of a sudden, quality is truly everyone's job. And that brings us to our final section and why this all matters for us today. What does this philosophy from the 20th century have to do with the smart factories and advanced automation of next-gen manufacturing? The answer is everything. It's literally the DNA. You can draw a straight line from every core principle of the quality revolution to the key technologies we use today. That obsession with the customer, it leads directly to mass customization. That intense focus on process control, that's the ancestor of today's smart factories and automation. That demand to measure everything, that created the mountains of data that now fuel our AI and predictive analytics. And that philosophy of continuous improvement, that is the engine that drives just-in-time manufacturing and agile production. It's all built on this foundation. So I want to leave you with this final thought. The revolution we just talked about fundamentally reshaped the world by putting the customer's needs at the center of everything. But as we look ahead to the massive challenges we're facing now, sustainability, resource scarcity, global supply chains, you name it, it really makes you wonder, what will the next quality revolution be about?